Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller at home, you can roll some towels for some of what we're going to do. You can also kind of use like a tennis ball or lacrosse ball for certain areas when we decide to like roll them. Don't do anything that doesn't feel great for you and your body. We're actually going to get started with our foam roller kind of widthwise on our mat. And we're just going to allow our ribs to gently rest on the foam roller. So we're not necessarily having them on the lowest ribs possible, but like right below the shoulder blades. Go ahead and interlace your hands behind your head. Your elbows can be in your periphery. We're just gonna let ourselves get a tiny little extension over the roller. Now just think about what part of your spine is getting that extension, right? So some people instinctively arch through their lower back, some instinctively arch through the whole spine. And then sink your ribs down, just come back to your neutral. Good. And then try to keep your ribs drawing down towards your belly button as you extend again. So we're trying to just get a little bit more extension through that upper spine. And then slide the ribs down again. Good. Once again, just trying to keep the foam roller right below the shoulder blades. 2 more. And then on this next one, all we're going to do is hold. And then using your feet, slide your hips just an inch away from the foam roller and notice how it created a little bit of extension in different vertebrae. And then you can push into your feet to slide just a tiny bit closer. And then use your feet to drag yourself a tiny bit away. If for any reason you're hitting like scapula and it doesn't feel great, or you're just hyperextending through your neck, nod your chin a little, try to flatten out through your shoulder blades. We're just trying to get a little bit more movement through different parts of our spine. Last one. And then let yourself come back up to your neutral. Your knees will start to fall to one side, and you're going to allow yourself to follow the knees. Yeah. And so now, hopefully we're on our lat. Now, if you're like, yeah, this is fine, I don't feel any crunchy spots. Fantastic. We're gonna let ourselves roll forward slightly and then roll back just a little bit. And when you find a spot that goes, oh, okay, that's a spot, we're just gonna hold and breathe. Everybody has them in different places. And then if you'd like more support, or less support, more intensity, lift the elbow and breathe here. Yeah. And then you can move forward and back just a little bit, as long as you're allowing your nervous system to relax. So it's interesting, well, I think it's interesting, with any sort of SMR, you can either use it to help relax like muscular tissue or excite muscular tissue. And so that just means if you're like rolling up and down, back and forth really aggressively, you could get your muscle spindles extra active as opposed to the calming part of the muscles. And then if it's appropriate for you and your body today, you can take your arm, bring it forward, thumb down, and then slide it overhead, palm comes up. Yeah. And then again. Good. And if you're like, well, but my neck, you can always use your opposite hand to support your head and neck. This should feel pretty good, not super painful. Maybe a tiny bit crunchy, but nothing unbearable, right? So don't think of this like punishment, because it shouldn't be. Last one. And just find the spot and bend that arm, cradling your head. Now we're gonna move our spine. So just push the foam roller away slightly and then drag the foam roller towards you. Yeah. And then push it away slightly. Good. And then drag it towards you. And if you feel a spot where you're like, oh, that's exciting, hang out and hold for a second. Good. Otherwise, we're trying to use our obliques here and get a little bit of movement through our spine, a little bit of lateral flexion. So if you're like, but I feel my back, close your ribs a little, rock back slightly, and think more about just sinking your ribs towards the floor with ease rather than overworking them. Last one. Bring that arm down. We're gonna try to address our pec. So slide the foam roller back a little bit and just rock forward. You can support your head on your hands. We're trying to find the clavicular part of our pec. So our pec is a big muscle, and up near our clavicle is a lot of times where grumpiness lies. So just try to find a spot that feels nice-ish and breathe. Good. And you can try letting the foam roller be a little bit lower if you want. We don't necessarily want to be on bone. Just 2 more breaths like this. And then roll up. We get to do the other side. Whenever you are ready. And go ahead and just start with your head on your hand. Yeah. And if any of you are like, I want some of those like upper back extensions in between, I'm fine with it, I promise. Yeah. Just forward and back a couple times. Good. And then see where you find a spot. Maybe you elevate your arm. Maybe you move through that range just a little bit. Maybe you hang out and breathe. Yeah. Everybody finding a spot that's like bearable, but talking a little? Yeah. Good. A few more breaths. I think most of us tend to have crunchiness in our lats, right? Not always. And then we can take our arm forward, maybe the thumb points down, and then we sweep it overhead, yeah. And then down, and sweep it overhead. Don't go into a range that feels bad. You know who you are. Good. And if you want, of course, support your head. Yeah. Is your neck feeling okay there? Yeah. Oh, you can move the foam roller closer or farther away. Yeah, absolutely. Is that better? Yeah. Good. 2 more. Hey, Stephanie, support your head with your other hand. And I think for you, keep your palm up. And just, yeah, is that a little bit better? Okay. 1 more. Good. And then you can go back to supporting your head, and then you can push the foam roller away from you just a little bit, sinking those ribs, and then drag the foam roller back, and then push it away. Good. And if for any reason that doesn't feel great, you can always put the arm down. Yeah. Good. And just notice if it feels the same on this side or different, right? Maybe it feels way nicer on this side. Maybe it feels way crunchier. Couple more. And then we get to slide the foam roller a little bit closer. We're going to get that pec. So if it's appropriate, you can just roll forward, hang out. If you need to readjust it or use a ball against a wall instead, that's fine too. Make sure it feels okay. A few breaths. Keeping the elbow a little bit heavier. So we're keeping that shoulder in gentle external rotation. 2 more breaths. And then we're going to get that upper back extension again and see if it feels a little easier than it did before. So when you're ready, just roll back, support your head, make sure the foam roller is at about shoulder blade height, and extend. I don't know about you, but I got way more range. And then you can curl up. And then the last 2 like this. And if for any reason you decide that you want to roll up and down, that's okay. Press into your feet, keep your abs nice and strong, use your hamstrings there. 2 more. Yeah. And last 1. Good. Go ahead, use your hands, bring them forward and curl up if it's appropriate. We're going to turn the foam roller lengthwise. We're going to lie down on it. Now, if for any reason it's really hard to lie down on it, you can always get rid of the foam roller, okay? You guys are like, I don't believe you. Yes, feel free to get rid of the foam roller if you need to. So we're trying to make sure both our head and tail are supported. Nod your chin and bring your fingertips towards the sky. And just let your shoulders be heavy on the foam roller. Now, if you're like me and you're pretty pec dominant, I want you to actually bring your fingertips a little bit farther back behind you so they're more in line with your forehead than your chin. Close your ribs just a little bit here. And then using the front armpit and pinky finger, just gently allow your fingertips to reach towards the sky. And then allow the shoulder blades to be heavy on the foam roller. Couple more here, trying to get that shoulder blade to move. 3 more. And once again, if you need to, let your fingertips be a little bit higher. And 2. Last one. Allow the arm bones to be nice and heavy. Flip your palms so they face your knees. And just allow the hands to be heavy, getting a little bit of openness through the front of your body. Maybe your hands touch the ground, maybe they don't. And then slide your elbows down. So we're in a goalpost position. As long as this feels okay in your shoulder, if it doesn't, you can be in a T position, okay? Now just let the elbows be a little bit heavier, almost like you're trying to push them into something. And then relax. And then keep your elbows right where they are. Let your knuckles be heavier, like you're trying to push them into something. And then relax. Keep your knuckles right where they are. Push the elbows down. And then relax. Keep the elbows right where they are. Push the knuckles down. And see if you can start getting just a little bit more range in the front of your body. Reaching your fingertips away from you in a T position. Think about reaching farther through one side, look the opposite direction. If you feel a little bit of like, oh, that's tight, that's fine. If you feel numbness, don't go as far. And then other side. Reaching the fingertips away. Yeah. One more each direction. And come back to center. Slide your hands down. Now, you can always, always, always come off of the foam roller if the balance work is too intense, okay? So first, just place your hands on your hip bones. Think about exhaling, pulling your hip bones away from your hands, and gently press your whole sacrum down into the foam roller. Hopefully your low abs just kicked on a little bit more. And relax. Let's try that again. Exhale, hug the hip bones together, press the sacrum down just a little bit. If you're unsure, because the low or the deep abdominal layers are harder to feel, you can always just kind of press into your abs. And when you try that, see if they respond. Two more. Last one. Hold that. And then your hands can either be on the floor or towards the sky. Push one foot into the floor, lift your opposite heel. And then switch. Just push and float the heel up. We're not actually even lifting the leg yet, unless you're really ready for it. And then switch feet. Then push one foot into the floor, lift your heel, and see if floating your leg to tabletop works. If you're like, well, I could if my hands were down, great, keep the hands down. And then push that foot into the floor, lift the opposite heel, and then allow that knee to float to tabletop. Reach that foot away, push it down. Now, as we work through this range, see what you can do to not roll back and forth, right? I feel like the foam roller is the great equalizer, right? Because we then figure out like, oh, I didn't realize my body had that strategy. If you need to, of course, you can either take your fingertips down to your side or widen through your hands, continue to get that pec stretch and have a little bit of extra support. Two more. Now, both feet down. If your hands are on the ground, see if you can bring them to the sky. If you need to, widen your feet. It gives you a wider base of support. Think about the arms actually connecting down to the ribs, and we're just going to try to stabilize them overhead a little bit. They're not going as far, and then back. You can also imagine holding a weight and trying to resist gravity as you do this. Now, maybe this is really easy for you, and that is awesome. If you would like more challenge, you can bring a leg to tabletop. If that isn't challenging enough, think about the thigh bone and the arm bones connecting at the belly button. You're going to push that foot away from you and then fold it in. Think about pushing it into a wall and fold. And then if you're in between, you're like, well, I can have my arms overhead and that's easy, but I can't push my leg away. You can put one hand down. So same hand as leg, can gently press into the ground. Couple more here. And two. Last one. Bend that knee, step that foot down. We get to do the other side. So take a second to reconnect, float that opposite leg up, and then take the arms overhead. Maybe this is your easier side. Maybe it's your more exciting side. It's my more exciting side, right? And then you can push that foot away. You can always bring that hand down to the ground, even if it's just one fingertip. You could also just tap the toe to the ground in between. So you have that little bit of extra support. And if this is hard, it could just mean that you haven't really practiced it. Couple more. 3. Trying to keep those hips nice and still and stable. 2. Last 1. Bring your foot down. Interlace your hands behind your head. Spiral your elbows forward. Shoulders draw down your back. Now, before we move our head, I want you to feel where your sacrum, that triangular bone that's shaped like a shield, is. We're going to rock into imprint and then rock back to neutral. Okay? So see if you can start in neutral. Inhale. Exhale, slide your ribs down towards your belly button. Curl forward. And then slowly lengthen all the way back down. Now, if that was too wobbly, widen your feet. And curl. If that was still really wobbly for you, you can always come onto the ground. Couple more. And notice how you might not get as high as you normally would. Yeah. 2 more. And last one, hold this last one up. Now bring one hand forward, push it into an imaginary surface, and then bring the hand back behind your head, slowly lower down. We get to do the other side. So come up, bring your hand forward, push it into an imaginary surface, come back behind your head, slowly lower. Now, if both of those felt pretty easy, you can use both hands. So bring it forward, both hands, press, and then back behind your head, and slowly lower. Now notice if one side wants to tilt or rotate as you lift just the tiniest bit higher. So curl and lift and back. And once again, this can always be done on the ground instead of on the foam roller. Last one like this. And you can always keep it at one hand behind your head as opposed to both moving. Yeah. Now both hands stay behind your head as we come up into our next one. Hold. Now if you're on the floor, you might choose to start lifting your foot faster. Otherwise, if you're on the foam roller, push one foot into the ground. Lift the heel only. Push that heel into the ground, float the other heel up, push it down. So you've got 2 points of contact here, okay? Now, if you feel really stable, you can try floating a leg up. Now, the good news is if you feel like you're going to fall, you can put your hand down, right? You can also put your head down at any point. Okay? So don't feel like you have to do the hardest variation each time. Good. 2 more. How's everybody feeling? Good? Good. Anybody not shaking a little bit? Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Good. And float the foot up and hold. Now, you can either stay like this or put a hand down. You're going to push that foot away from you, float it back in. Take the opposite hand as leg, place it on that thigh. Press your thigh into your hand from your glute, press your hand into your thigh from your abs. And then extend it again. And press. Hey, can you put a hand on the ground? Yeah. Can you put your head down? Yes. All of these are very valid, right? Can you have your head down and a hand on the ground? Absolutely. Good. Everybody feel that oblique kicking on a little bit? Yeah, 2 more on this side. You guys saw the foam roller and thought we were just gonna roll all hour, didn't you? Well, okay, Nancy, you didn't. And then bring it in, step the foot down. Other side. Can you put your head down in between? Absolutely. And push the foot away. Float it back. Use your opposite hand leg. So we are trying to create this isometric contraction through your abs and glute. Right? If you're here, you can still use your abs and glute, right? If you're like, well, head up is too much, head down is too much, you can always float that hand up. You can also keep one fingertip just gently drawing down. Good. Couple more. 3. And press. 2. Last one. And then set the foot down. Head comes down. Fingers stay on the ground to start. Float one leg at a time up to tabletop. And I actually have my full palms down. Fingertips might be a little tricky. Squeeze your inner thighs together as if you're trying to pop a balloon. And once again, if being on the foam roller here is really challenging, you can always come onto the ground. Feel where your spine is touching the foam roller. Don't let your spine or pelvis move. Let your knees start to drop away from your face. You don't have to go all the way to the ground. Exhale, float the knees back. And again. As the knees float back up, think of the thigh bone being very, very heavy and having a hot air balloon helping your knees elevate. Now, once you do a couple of these, if you want to come up onto your fingertips, great. If you want to try to hover both hands up off the ground, fantastic. I'm not there today personally. 2 more. Last one. Push one foot away, reach it super far away from you, and then keeping that same weight of your hip bones, let that heel start to drop towards the ground, just a little bit. And then drag the leg in. Good. And then other side, reach it away, and then allow it to come to the ground. If your hip bones lift when your heel is on the ground, maybe see if you can bias towards an imprint instead. We're trying to open through the front of the hips rather than getting lumbar extension, right? So think of your hip bone staying right where it is, the front of your thigh lengthening, 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 and then it can drag back in. 2 more. And last one. Good. Go ahead, step one foot at a time down and slowly roll off of the foam roller. We're gonna slide it lengthwise again, but this time it's coming underneath our hips. Okay. Hands can be on the outside. Now notice how as it's underneath your hips, you might be wanting to arch. That's okay to start. But then we're going to sink the ribs down so our weight is on our shoulder blades rather than our neck, bringing one leg at a time to tabletop. Now you can always drop your feet down towards the floor, but we're gonna let one hip just be kind of heavy. Hold here, inhale, exhale, drag the knees back. Other side. So this is our supine spine twist, dragging back from the ribs, but with the added bonus of a little glute massage, right? So try to keep the knees together as if you have like a precious gemstone in between them that you don't want to drop. Now, if you'd like more challenge, of course, lift the feet to that tabletop, and then you could even extend your feet away from you and drag them back. And then bend again, up and over, hold, and extend. Drag them back, and bend. So the reason we bend in between is a lot of times because a shorter lever is less work than a longer lever. If we start with our longer lever, we actually won't go as far. Whereas a shorter lever, we can go a little bit farther, and then we challenge that. But if you would like to keep the legs straight throughout, that's great. Last one, like this. Now we're gonna start with those knees bent, and this is a variation of corkscrew. So take the knees to one side, hold. When you come back to center, the knees dip away from your face, and we rock to the other side and back to center. Other side, so take the hips one direction, go back through center as the knees go away from you, and back to center. So it's like you're making a capital D shape with your knees. If this is really tricky and you want to try it without the foam roller, no problem. You just have to lift one hip and you might not go as far with the legs because you don't have the support of the foam roller. Now, if that feels great and you would like a little bit more challenge, you can keep the legs straight throughout. So it would be a tilt, a sweep to the other side and back. But try to think of your legs being one piece. They're no longer separate. They're like a merperson fin. And back. Last one. And back to center. Now, keeping your legs nice and strong, reach one foot away from you so far that maybe it lowers a bit towards the ground. But the goal isn't necessarily getting it as low as possible, right? And then switch legs. Think of the foot reaching away from you rather than down. Couple more. And just feel what your legs and hips are doing, right? So maybe on one side, you're like, yeah, this is really strong and easy. And maybe on one side, it just feels a little less coordinated, or maybe one hip wants to hike, right? It's just about observing and noticing, not about judging. Two more. Last one. Go ahead, bend both knees, step one foot at a time down. Lift your hips to bring them off the foam roller. Set the foam roller to the side and come all the way down. Now notice how it feels like you probably got a big massage at the upper portion of your glutes. We're gonna try to find our lower glutes here. So first, just let your spine relax to the ground and then rock it back. Two more, just gentle imprint and neutral. One more. Now we find our abs with the imprint. curl into that posterior tilt, push your feet into the ground, find the under butt, and peel up into your bridge. And see if you can push your feet down a little bit farther, lifting your hips just a tiny bit more, opening through the front of the thighs. Yes, good. And then melt all the way down. Let's do just a couple more. So slide the belly button down, hip bones toward your face, and then use the floor to help find that large glute connection. And then melt and roll. 2 more. Finding your whole foot, not just the heel, not just the toe. Last one like this. Hold at the top. Making sure that you're not feeling tension in your low back, we float one leg to tabletop, step it down, toe ball heel, press into the floor, float the other foot. And again, reach the knee away, press into the floor, float that foot up. Couple more here. And now you've got the larger muscle, but we are also hopefully getting that side glute to help us. 2 more. If at any point your low back starts to take over, come out of it. And then roll all the way down. Place one hand on the ground, one hand behind your head. Come into your chest lift. So curl forward. And then just look at your hand. Keeping the opposite hip heavy. Yeah, and back to center. And again, look just at the hand. Good, yep. Beautiful, everybody. Trying to maintain the height of your torso when you come back to center. Good. Last one, other side. And just notice how it feels from side to side. Maybe it feels awesome, both sides. Maybe both sides are tricky, or maybe just one side is. Couple more. And back to center. Go ahead, bring your head down. Bring both legs to tabletop. Hands can either be behind your head or fingertips forward, it's up to you. And extend one leg away from you. Push. And then allow it to fold back in. Other side. Now, if you'd like, you can extend the other leg. Now, when we do this, see if you can almost get into your hip extension before knee extension, right? So if your knee is slightly bent, but your leg is maybe a little bit more open, that might be a better place for you today, especially if you tend to love to use hip flexors and quads like me. Now keep the leg going, and we're just rotating to one side and back, rotating to the other side. Now, if you need to bring your head down in between, is that okay? Absolutely. If you need to bring your head down and march instead, is that okay? Yeah, it's great. It's the exact same move, right? You're just supporting your body a little bit more with the feet down, taking a tiny micro break, right? Maybe you're just doing crisscross, right? Or maybe you're doing a hamstring pull variation. We're almost there. One more each side. And then hug your knees in towards your chest. Gently rock from side to side. Bring your hands behind your thighs. Push your thighs into your hands. Keep your arms nice and strong. Lift your chest, look at your knees. Yeah, arms strong. Thank you. Now inhale and exhale. Just notice how if you inhale into the back of your body, it might start you rocking just a teeny bit. Now, as you do that, just push your legs into your hands a tiny bit. Yeah, gorgeous. Now inhale, exhale. Hey, Nancy, look at your thighs. Yeah, so inhale, exhale. Good. So, hey, everybody, look in between your thighs when you roll back for me. Yeah, look in between your thighs. Nod your chin a little bit more. Yeah, thank you, much better, yeah. Yeah. So one reason, just so you guys know, why I don't want you to rock back like this, one, it flattens your back, so it's harder to get up. Two, you're more likely to bonk your noggin, right? So going about our daily life, if we, for example, fall backwards, we should be able to avoid bonking our noggin. Good, yeah. Tucking your tailbone. And then here we go. Extend your legs forward. Yeah. All right. Go ahead and reach for your feet. Maybe you'll reach your knees, maybe your shins, maybe your toes. And think about your shoulder blades drawing down your back, lifting your ribs. And then just take your hands off of your feet, shins, or knees. Curl your tailbone towards your face as you start to roll all the way down. Connect your hands to your thighs as they come overhead. Now, as you come up, big inhale here. Big inhale into the backs of your ribs. And then exhale, curl deep to roll forward. Oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. Awesome. And again. Now, hey, you all did amazing. But say you're having a day where you're like, right? We all have them. Use your breath. Think about forward rather than up. And then if it's still tricky, either grab a pad to put below you, or you can use your thigh to help. Yeah. Couple more. You can also bend your knees a tiny bit. Good. Nice job, everybody. Last one. Good. We're coming on to all fours. Now, if you have a foam roller, I'd like you to use it. If not, we have other options. So first, with the foam roller, we're not just hanging out on our shoulders. We're going to start with it a little bit closer to our wrists, and then just open the armpits as you roll it forward. Then when you come back, you have to lift your whole body so your arms aren't just kind of stuck. Okay, so think about if you were here, sinking your whole spine and lifting your whole spine, okay? So just allow the fingertips to go, good. And then bring the whole spine up with you, good. And then extend. Trying to get a little bit of mobility through that thoracic. And when you do the press down to lift your spine, try not to overgrab through your pecs, right? So, well, what can you do to not have the pecs do all the work? Think about the front armpit muscles and also your abs. Now, if you don't have access to a foam roller, just be on your forearms, sink your whole spine down, lift your whole spine up, slide one hand, slide the other hand, right? Good. And so sink the whole spine down, lift the whole spine up, whole spine Yeah, there you go. And then slide one hand without reaching for, yeah. Better, yeah. And then whole spine down, whole spine up. Bring your belly button up too. There you go. And then keep weight on the stabilizing arm. Yeah. Good. How did that one feel? Look good. Yeah. Two more like this. Last one. Now we have options. We are going to plank. But if you want a more challenging version, you can stay on your foam roller. Nancy. If you want a less challenging version, you can be just on your forearms or your hands. Okay? Whatever your body says is awesome. That's what I would like you to do. Good. Catherine, lift your spine just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Good. Yeah, good, Erica. Nice. Couple more breaths here. Lift just a tiny bit more towards us. Yeah, I know, it's harder, I know. Good. Erica, tuck your tailbone. There you go. Stephanie, tuck just the other direction. Yeah, there, and knees down, everybody. Come into your little rest position. And come back. We're going to use the foam roller for another plank. It's much worse. However, you can always, always, always do it without, right? So if you're not using the foam roller, you will be here, okay? Otherwise, I personally prefer to be on my forearms for this. You can extend here and just roll the foam roller closer to you and extend. Nancy, try it. Try it. Yeah, yeah. Just try it. If you try it once and you're like, no, guess what? You don't ever have to do it again. Knee curl, and then extend. Yeah, come onto your forearms though. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, keep lifting, there you go. So when the knees want to come to the ground, just hover away from them a little bit. Yeah, good, yeah. Yeah, couple more. And two. Last one. And knees down. Press yourselves into that rest position. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, was it? No, yeah. Yeah, and we can go ahead and come onto our side. Now, if you don't have a foam roller, but you want a pillow, grab a pillow. It's all fine. We're just coming onto our side and lengthening our top hip away from us. Good. Push your heel away from you and trying to keep that hip nice and open. Just press your heel into an imaginary surface so that glute kicks on. Yeah. Now paintbrush your foot up and then squeegee it down. Good. Bring your heel back in space just a little. Yeah. And then roll your whole torso just forward a little. Yeah. And you can also, is that more glute? Yeah. Good. I want you to roll your top hip bone forward just a little baby bit too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Yeah. Yeah. Huh? Oh, more just like when this wants to rock back, just this forward. Yeah, you don't have to actually internally rotate at your femur. Let your foot relax. Yeah, there you go. Two more. And last one, hold. Tiny, tiny little press back. So squeeze the glute and the glute. Yeah, good. That looks great. 5, 4, 3, 2, and now just let the knee bend in, tap right in front of that other knee. See how you're now internally rotated? We're gonna keep the internal rotation as you press the heel away. Good, and then let the knee come in and tap. Keep that internal rotation as we press away. And just notice how it feels a little different, right? If for any reason it doesn't feel okay to keep the internal rotation, you don't have to do it, right? So if you have a hip impingement, for example, sometimes the internal rotation and adduction isn't really possible. Don't fight that, right? Just keep it in a range that feels good. 2 more. Last one. Reach it away. Good. Now bring the foot forward, slide the other foot forward, squeeze the inner thighs together. Now, you'll notice that you're more in a piked position, and then we're gonna roll back just a little bit. Top hand can be on the ground. We're just gonna float the legs up. Think about inner thigh and oblique, and then down, and float. If for any reason you start arching and your legs go back, or you feel your back doing more work, rock back a little more, and don't worry about height, right? You can hover the legs maybe barely and get just as much, if not more work than them lifting really, really high, right? We have just 2 more. Good. Now hold them just part of the way up. Flex your feet and point your toes. And flex, pressing your heels away, and then point. Yeah, 3, 2. Now, we're gonna reach the pointed toe back, flexed foot forward, and then switch. So flex to come forward, point. Good. Now, if you're too far forward, it's really hard to move that leg back, right? So keeping your weight behind your greater trochanter more on your cheek makes moving the leg a little easier. Last 2. Last 1. And both feet together. And you can roll to the other side. I'm gonna flip everything over. Yeah, so fun. Slide that hip away, and then making sure that the foot is in line with like where the thigh bone attaches in the socket, rather than it being forward, right? We're gonna paint brush the foot up and squeegee it down. Yeah, good. Making sure that your hip bone and your ribs aren't rocking back, and then down. Once again, it's not necessarily about height, right? It's about using that glute and letting the thigh bone sink in the socket. If we're trying to go for the gold and we wind up hiking, we tend to overuse our QL a little bit. Looking at you, Erica, just checking. Yeah, good. Few more. Nancy, push your foot away more. Not behind, towards the wall. Yeah, did you feel where your hip just went? Rotate your top hip bone, yep, and keep it that way. Yeah. Push it away. Yeah, there. So keeping this hip right there, as opposed to this, right? Yeah. Last one, hold. Now just push the foot back a teeny bit into an imaginary wall. Right? So you're just trying to get that glute max to help you out a little bit. We have 4, 3, 2. Last one, bring the foot forward, other foot comes to meet it. Top hand can come down. We're just rocking back a teeny bit. Think of that bottom inner thigh helping, and bring it back. And then press lift and bring it back. A few more. 4. Still think of suction cupping the thigh bones up into the socket. Almost there. Last one, and hold. And flex your feet. And point your toes. And flex, yeah. Gorgeous, everybody. Now, we're gonna keep one toe flexed, one pointed one goes back, flexed one comes forward, and switch. Now you might have to do a little adjustment to make sure you've got an easy to move angle, right? So if you're right on your thigh bone, it's hard to get that back leg behind you. 2. Last 1. Bring your feet together, and we're actually coming all the way to standing. I know, so however you can is great. I'm gonna roll all the way up. Now, let your knees be nice and soft. We're gonna slide one hand down our side, other hand can come up and over. Now, if you'd like a little bit more stretch, take that bottom arm, clasp the top one, and give it a little pull. Good. And then keeping this, look down with your torso, and then back, look up with your torso. And back to center, all the way up, other side. Slide that hand down, maybe that other one reaches. And if you want that traction, pull. And then down, and up, and back to center. We're gonna do one more each way. Reach, and just see what felt the tightest, right? Maybe looking down felt tighter, maybe looking up felt tighter. I want you to go to that one place, and then we get to do the other side. We're gonna get a little baby bit of movement through our spine. So nice wide stance. I want you to let your arms internally rotate and wrap them around. So you're gonna touch the fronts of your wrists together, rounding your back, and then flip your palms the opposite way, open your chest. Good. And then round your back here, and then open, collarbones come up. 2 more. Letting everything round like you're hugging a big beach ball, and open. Good. Last one. Open. Good. And then slide your shoulders up to your ears, drop them straight down. 1 more. Nice job, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. You're all amazing.